Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 104, and today I found this in my closet. Check that out. Wait, maybe it's on this side. What the heck? There it is. Bam, baby. Feels good to be back in the CLG jacket. Don't panic, everybody. I've still got my TSM jacket over there. Just, after that IEM performance, I'm kind of up in the air which one I should wear. Don't want to be attacked on the street. Okay, let me dive into the questions for today. The first one is from Rytak, and he asks, do you think someone with Aspergers could go pro? Now, for those of you who don't know, Aspergers is like a kind of almost no longer a disease. It's been put on the autism spectrum, kind of like on one end of it, and so there are some people saying, no, we need to keep it as a disease, and so that we can differentiate between different levels of autism, and other people are saying the autism diagnosis helps with all sorts of things. Let's be honest here, and the question is, can somebody with Asperger's go pro? And the answer, I believe, is that there are already a lot of people who are in that spectrum that are go pro. There's rumors that Michael Phelps is. Of course, those have been not only unsubstantiated, but also contradicted by him and his family. So please don't spread those around. But essentially, the limitations, I think, personally, that it actually improves your chances to go pro. I think that the kind of seeking of stimulation and intense focus that you can drive when you are on the autism spectrum is actually a benefit for becoming a master of any craft. If you look at high-functioning autists in terms of the capabilities that they can produce, a lot of it comes from the desire or the ability to focus on one single thing in order to kind of put aside the distractions that their mind encounters, the sensory input. And there's a theory put forth by, the name is escaping me right now. He's a psychology researcher in expertise, and he looks at a lot of essentially the kind of genius, prodigy, the kind of, not prodigy, when somebody is mentally handicapped with autism, but they become brilliant at one thing, they learn a bunch of languages or they learn numbers really well. He studied how they do that and essentially uncovered the idea that they go through a system of deliberate practice wherein that is all that they're doing all day long every single day in order to kind of distract their mind from sensory input and sensory overload and whatever it is else that autistic people experience kind of in their world and in their mind. And so I think that it's probably more likely than the average population that you'd be able to pull that off, especially in a place like the US where it's kind of difficult compared to, for example, Denmark, where a lot of pros come from. In the US, it's really difficult to get the kind of state support where you would, your family and you would be okay with you in your late teens, early 20s, kind of just living at home and focusing on that career. But in the US, if you have social services, and if you have if you have a mental handicap and it's classified, you can get more support, which means you might even have more freedom than other people your age to pursue this career. So those are my thoughts about it, and I think that there are some limitations, obviously massive limitations that people with autism have in a world where there's a lot of neurotypical functioning, and there's a lot of bias toward that, but there are, I think, also some cool advantages. And if you lean on your strengths and you try to kind of steer clear of your weaknesses, you can go really far, I think. Okay, the next question is from Tigers, and they ask, what all is needed to start your own esport franchise? Money, advertisement, etc. Okay, so if you want to start your own esport franchise, the first thing that you need to do is recognize that you're starting an entertainment company, which means that your job is to get as many people's eyes onto your brand as possible, and then you monetize that brand. And the number one easiest way to monetize it is through sponsorships, where somebody like Logitech or an equipment manufacturer pays you to essentially sell their stuff or brand their stuff. So you need to have like a reputable, respectable brand so that people will want to put your name associated with their product, and then you will sell it on your channels. So there's a couple things you need to know is that you have to be really good at marketing. Not PR. PR is like old school, kind of like what companies did to kind of handle press, but creating your own content. You don't want to deal with the press and let the press monetize you, like, you know, ESPN's interviews and websites, whatever. You want to create your own storylines and tell those stories. So if you're good at that, then the next thing that you want to do is go find a team that is bad at that. Okay, so go find a team that is doing pretty well performance-wise, but they're not marketing themselves, they're not putting out content, they're not producing YouTube channel, they're not doing like co-streams with people, they're not interacting with their audience anyway, and kind of, I would say, partner with them at first, because unless you want to get investment, which means that you need a business plan and you need a marketing plan and you need an opportunity, and you have to kind of prove all of this value. And also you need to put together a team of people to do that. So if you're going for investment, that's an entirely different thing, and you have to basically know how to do a startup and how to look for investment capital. So I'm not going to go into that in this video, but just starting from like grassroots, go partner with a team and offer to do their marketing as in a partnership. So like they kind of own the team and you kind of own the team, and you're kind of like there to growth hack them. And you can predicate it on performance. You can say, listen, if I don't bring you new fans and produce you content and get you an advertiser and like do my side of the bargain, then you don't have to uphold giving me equity in your team. You don't have to give me like 50% of the org or 49%, whatever it is you negotiate with them. But if I do, and if I growth hack your team, and if I quadruple your fan base, and if I get you your first sponsor, and if I start paying you, get it so you're starting to be paid, then I get my 51%, and I will like carry you to the top, and you just keep winning. But we might have to trade people on the roster, because at some point you're going to need sport management. So that's what I would do. If you're a marketing person, and if you're not, you need to be. So go learn. There's a site called Google, and this other site called YouTube, where you can learn all that stuff. And then let the team start out with. You need to find a team that can handle their own performance side. And you make suggestions, and you go to practices, and you comment on things, but you work with them. And then eventually, when you've proven yourself, and you have like a say in the control of the team, then you can bring up the ideas like, let's get a manager, and maybe we have to change this person on the roster, and these kind of things. Good luck. Okay, the next question is from Aspergers. Okay, sorry. I totally didn't mean to do two questions from you. Everybody else feel bad. Aspergers feel lucky. Okay, he asks, or she asks, I'm a freshman psych major in college. What caused you to become interested in psychology? For me, what caused me to be interested in psychology was I had committed myself in 2007 to becoming a sport coach that was better than my sport coach. So I was a swimmer for 19 years. Then I got injured in the university level. And in 2007, so about 5 years after my injury, I rehabilitated, and I realized that it was coaching technique. So it was like a minor physical, something that he didn't notice, just didn't pay attention to, that caused my injury. It was an overuse injury that turned into like an acute injury. And I was like so mad. I was like, okay, I'm going to become a swim coach, and I'm going to do better. So I did it. I became a professional swim coach, got paid to coach, was coaching a master's level national ranked swimmer, and he got injured in a kind of similar way, like overuse injury. And I was like, I just became my worst nightmare. And the reason that he got injured because he was overmotivated. Like, he was motivated to train, and he was motivated to do something amazing. And I put that motivation in him because I showed him his potential. And then he accomplished it, but he also got injured. And so I was like, I need to understand not just the physical aspect of swimming, which by then I was pretty head down pat. Like, I was able to coach at the national level. I needed to understand the mind. I needed to understand what I was doing inside of people on a very mechanical level. And so I was like, I need to study sports psychology. So I looked around and I found lots of different sports psychology degrees and exercise psychology degrees. And I really wanted to understand motivation, like chemically and neurologically and, in tasks and things like that. And sure enough, like sports psychology and exercise psychology are basically just the study of motivation, among many other things, but that's one of the core tenements that they kind of research a lot. So that's how I became interested in it, and wow, uncovered a whole can of worms that was super fascinating. So since then I've been very fascinated by sports psychology research, and now it's become performance psychology research. All right, the next question is from I Am Kervor, and they ask, starting practicing Lee Sin, should I wait for sandbox mode or try to find a routine in customs to improve my mechanics? The answer is don't wait. Don't put anything on the table and wait till an optimal time. Figure it out now. So you're not going to gain anything by putting it off. You're not going to become more efficient. Everything that you learn practicing in a custom or practicing in a solo queue environment, you're going to kind of carry with you into the sandbox mode, okay? So nothing is ever wasted in terms of figuring out systems and figuring out how it is that you want to train. So just pay attention to what you're doing and what works. Think of it as like a test, as constantly learning, as layering on like your expertise. So you need to go into sandbox mode, you're going to need to design something. Well, your practice designing and testing things in a custom or in solo queue, which I recommend not doing a custom. I recommend just going straight into solo queue, ranked solo queue, so you got something on the line. I think that's are you more liable to care about your execution on a word hop in a custom game, or are you more likely to care about it in a ranked game when you need to do a gank? And the answer is, in a ranked game, you're going to be so afraid of screwing it up, you might not even do it. So force yourself to actually do it, and then the lessons of how you did it and how you screwed it up will be burned onto your mind, like with all of the emotion of that moment. And that's much faster than doing 10 word hops in a custom game, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I recommend, is doing 10 word hops in a ranked game where winning for your team is on the line and everybody's pressure is on you. Because yes, you'll screw up, but boy, will you not forget your screw ups. And that's much faster path to the top. All right, next question is from Oscar Carrera, F, and they ask, my question is, how do you measure team performance? What do you think are key metrics that help improve overall performance? Okay, 2 questions. So let me dive into the first one. How do you measure team performance? You have to capture metrics at this point. Team performance, obviously winning, losing, but the way that I measure team performance is on trainables. So we have this thing that we need to train, and then we train it, and I track that as it goes. It's quite simple. It's just that it's really easy for you to track wins and losses. It's really hard for you to track other things. But it's not hard for me. I just sat down and I said, okay, I'm going to track, how many times that we pull off a 4-man bot roam. And then I counted, and then we saw if the number improved or not. I wanted to see how many times we avoided getting turret dove top lane before 6 minutes, before our top laner hit level 6. And then I counted, and then I added them together. So it's quite easy to come up with things to track and measure improvement, and they just have to be tied to performance. You have to make sure that you're actually choosing game variables that matter. Okay. All right, and the final question for today is from Evan Belcher, 3. And they ask, have you watched the Team Liquid documentary? How would you evaluate their management? Could you have gotten them to Worlds? I have only watched about half an hour of the Team Liquid documentary. I think that their management, so if you're talking about their organizational management, like from the team level, we're talking like Steve Arhenset, I think he's amazing. I think that there are some there's key organizations and teams in esport that are here and that have proven themselves, and those are TSM, Cloud9, CLG, Team Liquid. You can't argue with the fact that they're still existing and they're still not relegated, and that they're still moving forward and advancing the scene. You just can't argue with results. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what your opinion is about Steve. The fact is, he managed to pilot successfully his esport organization through very turbulent waters and win at the end. Okay, not win as in, winning the LCS, but win as in he's still here and he's still cooking. Okay, so that's what I think about their management. Now, if I think at their team management level, I think they didn't have a team manager. I think that they just had Loco Doco, and they didn't have another voice in there. They didn't have another staff member in there. They didn't have a team manager, like a performance environment trainer or anything like that. So that was probably some place where they dropped the ball. And could I have gotten them to Worlds? Of course. I'm the best coach that there is. I will get any team to Worlds if I have an entire split. and I have some say in the roster. I'm adding an asterisk there. If I have some say in the roster before recruitment, and if I have an entire split to train them, definitely. Bye.